And tonight I am super excited to have Marcus F. from Prescott, Arizona speak for us. Marcus?
Hey, what's going on? My name is Mark. I'm alcoholic. I love when we have Zoom bombers and they write crap in the chat box. It's like, I'm glad my life's a little bit more full than that today. Tiffany, thank you for asking me to speak. It's funny, I had just an absolutely bonkers week today at work, or this week at work today, and I just couldn't feel like I was going to catch up. And so I was down for the count. I was calling it a night. And I had a personal plan this evening, and the answer always comes. Tiffany gave me a call and was like, hey, I need you to speak. And then the next text was tonight. And I was like, oh, and what that shows me is that, God's always on time, because my brain starts to get a little bit wacky but what I do know today is that my primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And that is my primary purpose today. I'm grateful that I have people around me today that show me how to do this program. They don't talk about the program, they show me how to do it. They show me how to do it step by step. My sponsor drills into our head, our primary purpose, stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety, no matter what's going on around us, no matter what's going on in the outside world that are outside issues. We have an opportunity to help people and maybe be able to reach one person instead of beating my head against the wall, trying to come up with solutions to the world's problems. And what I know today is that this is my solution, and this is where I need to go, and this is where I get peace. I grew up in a military family. I was always used to just moving, going, and I had a really good family. My mom and dad were fantastic. My mom loved us to death. She wanted everything for us and wanted to make sure that, we had clean clothes so she wouldn't let us fall down. And she wanted to make sure that we had everything to eat. So she only let us have one bowl of cereal. And, I talk to her every day though, still. So I've done a lot of work around that. I grew up in a really nice home. I grew up in a military family with good morals, good values. I grew up knowing what it was like to work and to take pride in yourself and respect people and have manners. I was always really outgoing growing up. I have that basic, typical story growing up of not fitting in, not feeling accepted, confused, feeling like the outsider, like the outcast. I've heard it 1,000 times in these rooms. And I'm no different. I'm starting to find out that I'm not that unique from everybody else. I thought, because I'm my favorite subject to think about, to talk about. And I just think that I'm so different from my fellows and from everybody else. And I felt that way. And it's funny because the older I get, the more I see that everybody's trying to do the best in their own lives and work out their own stuff, and so we're all growing up, feeling weird and different. And I'm reacting on my feelings. Growing up in life, I'm just reacting on my feelings and how I feel, and it's put me in positions to be harmed a lot, and I'll get into that. My drinking began when I was living in the Netherlands, and about 45 minutes south of Amsterdam. We had access to everything because as long as you could see over the bar, you could drink. You could also buy marijuana on a menu and a card, and if you wanted some hash, you could buy that on a menu. You just walk in and you tell them what you want. And cigarettes, we'd all chip in and buy a pack of cigarettes, and we go to the graveyard, which is where we smoked, and we'd share a pack of cigarettes and share a bottle, and we'd still beer because in Holland it was so cold and everybody drank Heineken. And so in Heineken cases in Europe come in these hard plastic cases, right? And so you drink them and you put the bottles back in the case and you go get a credit for it back at the store, half off your next case. So everybody would store them out in the back and keep them cold. So we'd hop over the fence and we'd take them and throw them over to our friend, and we just go out to the graveyard and drink. And I won't forget how I felt. I always felt so different. And when I drank that first drink, I know this sounds so cliche, but again, I'm not unique like everybody else. I drank that and I got drunk and I finally felt at peace. I took that deep breath that we hear in this room. I took that deep breath and I was just like, okay, I'm a part of something finally. I'm part of something finally. And that carried on. I had a really good time. I I started getting in a lot of trouble. My dad was in the military. He was at war. This is when Gulf War and Desert Storm were happening, and my dad was away. I was acting out. I was misbehaving. I was just doing what kids do. I was stealing stuff. I was vandalizing. I was drinking. I was smoking weed, and I sort of, well, I won't talk about that, but and I started doing things that made me feel good. I'm sure there's a lot under there. I know I was driving my mom crazy. And I remember one time I got a phone call and it was my dad. And back in the day, they didn't just have like the satellite, the FaceTime and all that stuff. And so my dad called me from this satellite phone that has like a 30-second interruption between the two. And all he said to me was, Marcus, I really need your help and I need you to behave. And that's all he said to me. And I'll never forget his tone. I knew he did not have time, like physically time. And I knew that it was not the time. He's at war, fighting a war in Saudi Arabia and Turkey. And I'm over here vandalizing and driving my mom crazy while she's freaking out just because she's trying to keep the family together. And I'm just stuck in self. Me, 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 me. I couldn't get any farther than my nose. It was just me. I was the only one in this world. Everything revolved around me. Why wasn't I getting enough attention? Why wasn't I getting enough love? Why me? Poor me. I started fitting in again. Like I said, we moved to the United States. I moved to Florida, Panama City, Florida. Spring break capital of the world, party, and so I grew up really fast down there. I had started doing some outside issues very young. The alcohol. My sister would have to carry me into the house. What I learned was every time I moved, I had to find out who I needed to be and how I needed to behave and how I needed to act to fit in with who I wanted to be. So every time I got a clean slate, every time I moved to a different city, I had a completely new clean slate. Okay, that didn't work over there. This is what I want to do. This is where I want to be here. Right. And so I move and I kind of adapt and I look around me and I'm like, okay, this is where I'm at. I think at one point I even had a country accent. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's desperate. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was bad. And I started drinking alcoholically. I started drinking alcoholically from that graveyard, and I didn't know. I wasn't the, everyday drinker alcoholic yet. I wasn't having consequences around my behavior. I wasn't shaking or any of that kind of stuff. But when I did drink, I just put it down, and then, as I got older, I remember my sister and I, we hung out at the same social circles in high school. And there was times, my mom would kind of sleep with one eye open until we told her that we were home, and then she'd go to sleep. And my sister would be holding me up, she'd be holding me up. Okay, you guys are safe. Yeah. And she would take me upstairs and put me away. I remember one New Year's Eve, I got this brand new Adidas hoodie, and we were drinking something that was red. It was after my Mad Dog days. We had already upgraded to like Bacardi and stuff like this, And I threw up red all over this wet sweater. My sister took me home, threw it in the wash while my parents at my friend's house, completely enabled this behavior. And we got the sweater out, but it was still kind of damaged. It was just a mess. And but I always had people around me who were willing and able to do that for me. I was really well liked and I was outgoing. And I got into high school and I started playing football. I was still plagued though by that not fitting in stuff. And I was accomplishing the goal of having friends and being in the in circle, right? But I still was on the outside looking in, wishing, like, not knowing like why I felt so different from people, why I just could not connect, but I didn't know that's what I was feeling. In hindsight, I can see that's what was happening in my life. So what do? I go and I just like student government, every single club, football captain, I'm going to show these people who I am because I have to prove it to you who I am because I'm not okay enough in myself to just present me who I am. You know, it would help if I knew who I was too, though, to present that. But I was completely lost. I was completely lost. I got really involved in the rave scene and the clubs, and the I was really fast. That's what my mom calls it. It's called promiscuous, I guess, in her day, being fast. You know, so I grew up really fast, you know, in nightclubs, you know, bars, raves, you know, and I fit in there, you know, and I remember going to one of those places, and I walked in and I was just like, okay, this is what I've been missing, you know, and I continue that on, right? Because I can't just have one. I have to continue and keep going and drive it into the ground until I find the next thing to drive into the ground to find the next thing. You know, I started having consequences. I totaled a car, told my parents I'd fallen asleep. You know, I think I got away with like 3 lies in my entire life. Like, one, that porn was not mine. 2, I fell asleep when I was driving. And 3, that was not my alcohol in my sister's car, because it was, right? And they were just like, okay, you know. I never got away with anything else in my life. And, you know, so gradually things got worse, you know, just like the book talks about. The book says gradually things got worse. I hadn't crossed that line. I haven't crossed that point of no return yet. I would consider myself, I was still having serious problems around it, but I hadn't crossed that line yet. You know, my parents had started to get concerned, you know. My friends circle started being, it was a completely different circle than it had been at the beginning. I was finding the people who were doing what I was doing and were going to judge me for it. And you know, like they say, that drank just like me. So I go play football in college, and I move up to Illinois. You know, we had to drink in the cornfields. You know, I wasn't used to that. I'm used to, you know, Florida, where it's, you know, nightclubs and raves and parties, and all of a sudden I'm drinking in a cornfield, you know. And I played football up there for a little while. I got suspended twice for drinking, you know, and it was just hearsay, you know, somebody just told on us. I was at a private Christian liberal arts school, which I don't recommend for somebody who's not into that. It didn't work out very well for me. I was there, and my high school team could have beat my football team, but it was free school and it was a good experience. And I was grateful for it. You know, I ended up moving back down to Florida, and that's when things went off of the rails. You know, all the people that I was with, I almost got married to this girl, Janelle. She's from Boston. She still holds a special place in my heart. But there was something different about her, and it was just because she was a woman, and it wasn't going to work out for me. And she and I just had so much fun. We had so much fun. She drank like I did. She took pills like I did. She did the outside issues like I did, and she could stay up longer than me. And she was just wild, you know. And met her family and her sisters, and, you know, we were gonna get married, and, you know, and she's this young little whippersnapper from Boston with this crazy accent, and I thought she'd kill me. But, you know, we had a great time, and all the people that we hung out with did the same things that we did. You know, the stories aren't different than yours. You know, well, some of them are, but we're going to talk in a general way tonight. You know, I went off the deep end. You know, I crossed that first line. My dad had flown from Las Vegas to Orlando to come get me. You know, I had started selling outside issues. I couldn't keep a job. They had been paying my bills, and I still couldn't keep my bills paid. I don't know how that happens, but it wasn't working out for me. And, you know, I couldn't see the writing on the wall. You know, at that time I was 21 years old, and I was like, I'm just having fun. You know, it's just my lifestyle right now. And so, you know, my parents, they loved me to death, right? And they decided, you know, let's move him out to Las Vegas with us. I don't know if you've been to Las Vegas, but for a 21-year-old moving out to Las Vegas who's already has a proven problem, is probably not a really good idea. But again, it was just my lifestyle, and my parents they didn't know any better. You know, they didn't know any better. They just, you know, they just thought one day I'd drink like a gentleman. You know, one day I'd grow up a little bit, and one day I'd settle down. And the reality is that I had that spiritual malady that's my sickness inside of me that I had no idea how to treat. You know, I knew I was restless and discontent, and I knew that I wasn't okay, but I didn't know how to identify that. I didn't know how to identify what my problem was. You know, I was completely unaware. I was aware, but completely unaware. Like I knew I was having problems, but I didn't know that it was the alcohol and the drugs. I didn't know, you know, and I just, you know, I was completely baffled by this, right? You know, I lived in Las Vegas. My parents moved after like 2 months, you know, so I was all alone, 21 years old in Las Vegas. And I remember I was working at the House of Blues, and these coworkers took me to Spearmint Rhino after hours. It was a nightclub with DJs, and I remember walking out at 10 o'clock a.m. and the sun just beamed in my eyes, and I saw the whole strip of Las Vegas, and I said, I have arrived. I was like, I have arrived, and I knew it. I said, this is about to get good. It did, and it got real bad. It got real bad, right? I had a lot of fun. I made a bunch of money. I don't have anything to show for it except for a ticket to rehab. So, you know, I could go into details about Las Vegas, and that's a really fun story, but that's for a coffee date or something like that another time. But I ended up in treatment in Texas, you know, and, you know, I did mom and dad rehab at first, you know, I had somewhere in that time in Las Vegas, I crossed that line. That line looked like this. I was sitting in this apartment with somebody that I didn't even like, with no money. My car was broken on the curb. I had no job. I hadn't talked to my family in probably 3 months. I was in really, really, really bad shape. This was when I was probably about 26 or 27. I was in awful shape. And I looked around me, and I'm literally sitting on a mattress on the floor, and it's not one of those blow up mattresses from Amazon. Like it's just one of those mattresses that just like the springs are out. It's dirty, it's disgusting. And there's a TV that's like on the floor across from me. And that's literally it. Literally it. There was no more change to pull out of a couch cushion. There was no more change to get from underneath the chair in the car. There was nobody willing to give me money. There was, you know, so when it gets to that point, you know, we get to that I get to that incomprehensible point of demoralization where I do whatever is necessary for me to get what I need. You know, at that point, I don't have any morals. Like I told you, I am constantly thinking about myself. And if you're in my way, I'm just going to move you out of the way. Like you're unnecessary. I'm going to move you out of the way. I'm going to go get what I need. And I did some things to do that, you know, and I don't regret the past, nor is to shut the door on it, because it's part of my story, and it's an asset to somebody who I might be able to help with that, you know. And so, you know, I had scratched this bottom. I'd scratched this bottom that was desperate. You know, I saw some things in Las Vegas that I don't think is normal. Actually, I know it's not normal. I hung out with some people that were doing some really awful things, you know, and like I told you, I came from a family that was upstanding. They were military. My whole family was chief master sergeants in the military, fixing F-16 fighter planes. And, you know, and I was the guy who is hanging out with these people, those people. You know, we all have those people in our lives that we used to have in that world, and that underlying world that, you know, that I don't see in the sunlight. When I'm in the sunlight of the spirit here in Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't see that except for the people coming into these rooms today. You know, but let me tell you, I haven't forgotten. I remember very clearly what that feels like, and I don't want anything to do with that in this moment. I don't know about tomorrow. So I go to mom and dad rehab in Texas, you know, and, you know, Marcus, it's okay. You can come live with us. You can just drink. You can smoke weed. You can't do any of that other shit, and you'll be okay. Right. And I'm like, yeah, mom and dad, you know, because I'm in the dark. I have no knowledge. I have no knowledge of what is at the core of my problem. I have no idea that I suffer from the phenomenon of craving and the mental obsession. I have no idea what any of that meant, right? And I failed mom and dad's rehab, right? I go to this treatment center that's surrounded by barbed wire down in the middle of Fort Worth, next to the homeless shelter. I come in my cute outfit, right? My hair's coiffed, and I got my bag, and and they open up the gates for us. And my mom's like, my son is not going here. My dad said, yes, he is. And he throws me out of the car and says, go in there. And I had a rude awakening, right? This was not a nice plush treatment center. This wasn't like insurance based. It was hardcore. And they brought me to the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of my dearest friends actually took a meeting into there, and he ended up sponsoring me when I got out of there. And they brought me to the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they read the doctor's opinion to me, and it talked about the cycle of addiction. I'm restless, irritable, and discontent. I succumb to the desire again to drink. I go on a spree. I emerge remorseful with the firm desire never to do it again. And unless a psychic change happens, then I'm sure to drink again. And this cycle kept repeating. However, what I found in that doctor's opinion, where it talks about how my mind and my body are mentally different than my fellows. I'm not like a normal person. That when I take something into my body, I have a reaction that other people don't, which is why my mom and dad were completely confused as to why I couldn't stop drinking. They kept throwing that Father emotional pill out saying, why can't you stop? Marcus, you have so much potential. And I hate that damn word. Marcus, you could just do better. Marcus, just, go find a girl, go find a girl, they'll save you, and all this stuff. And they meant well. They meant well because that's all they knew. But I was getting information about myself that told me I was living in this delusion that somehow, someday I could drink like a normal person. And I took that all the way down many times. This is not my first rodeo, right? This is not my first rodeo. I have had, what does it talk about? Hold on. Yeah, it says the idea that somehow someday he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it to the gates of insanity or death. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people or presently maybe has to be smashed, right? Like I can't sit there and dance around it and say, oh, you know what? Like today I can't. In the past, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to drink beer now. I'm not going to drink any gin, right? Not going to drink any gin. I'm not going to drink during the week. I'm not going to do any outside issues. It's not going to happen. I'm just going to smoke a little bit of weed and I'm going to get through it and I'm going to be good. There's nothing wrong with a little Xanax here or there or something, maybe to calm my nerves or something, but all these are excuses that tell me that somehow, someday I can control and enjoy my drinking. Right. And it talks about, it says, we take this to the gates of death, insanity. That's my story. I've been to jail many times. I had to spend a year in jail. I assaulted a police officer also after they caught some stuff on me and driving, my second DUI. I don't even remember. Right. And I'm sitting in jail for a year. And you think that would stop me, right? It doesn't. It doesn't stop me because I don't have the solution yet. That solution, I heard this in a meeting probably like a year or two ago, and they said, I could relate to the problem. I just could not understand the solution. Right? Like I could relate to the problem. I know the problem, but I just can't get with the solution. And it talks about, there's a solution. Almost none of us like the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings, which the process requires for a successful consummation. And it's like, I've danced around me, myself, my personality, who I am, my causes and conditions for so long, because I'll dress it up on the outside. I'm dressed up today because my sponsor tells me to. My sponsor tells me to dress up and respect Alcoholics Anonymous. And I do that because I told him I would do everything that he asked until I could find out, who I really am and what the hell's going on. And I have a higher power that I can trust and lean on, and so I committed to that. He tells me, he asked me, if I make a commitment to him, would I do everything that he asked for a year? And I said, yes. And he asked me to do stuff. And I don't know why. I remember one time I asked him why. He said, I thought you were going to do everything I asked for a year. He was very clear too. He said, I'm not your higher power. He goes, but I do know how to stay sober for 32 years, one day at a time. So I do know how to stay sober, you know? And I was like, okay, you know, I had finally had enough. Like I had finally had enough, and I was tired of beating my head against the wall, and I couldn't understand why I kept ending up in treatment centers. I couldn't understand why I kept ending up in psych wards. I couldn't understand how to stay out of jail. You know, I just couldn't, you know, I didn't know why I could not accomplish long-term sobriety. I didn't understand, you know. Um, so I grew up in the rooms in Dallas, Texas. Anybody knows what that is, I respect you. But you know, Texas where my heart's at. They showed me sobriety there. You know, I had the same sponsor for 9 years there, and he saw me through a lot. You know, he saw me through the lot. He was another one of those people in my life that, and I know that a lot of you probably have this, and if you don't, find it. He was somebody that I could trust with my life and my secrets and everything. You know, he knew me better than I knew myself. You know, I could sit down in front of him and he'd be like, "What's up?" I remember one time I had moved to Austin, and he called me and he said, "I'm feeling some vibrations in the South. What's going on, Marcus?" And I just fucking bawled. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that word. I just bawled. He knew. We were connected because I allowed him into my life in a way that I never allowed anybody else in, because I was desperate and I was hurting and I was sad. You know, but guess what happens to me, right? I get desperate, I hurt, I'm sad, and then guess what? I start feeling better. I start looking better. I start getting a job. I get a good partner. I get a partner. You know, I start getting a little money in my pocket, and all of a sudden, I'm floating in lotus position about 2 feet up in the air, and you can't touch me, right? You can't touch me. I got it. You know, all my plans and designs, I have all these great ideas, and I'm smart, right? I'm motivated. I'm ambitious. I'm driven, and I've got a great resume, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure it out. It's going to work. I'm going to make it happen every single time. And then I wonder why I'm restless, irritable, and discontent. And that cycle of addiction starts again, right? Restless, irritable, discontent, phenomenon of craving. I drink, spree. On that spree, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it's not good because it's never been good. Like that spree has never, ever in my life been good. I've never, after knowing this information out of this book and my experience, I have never had one experience where I have drank and said, wow, that was fun. That worked out really well for me. You know, it's never worked, because I identify in this book, I identify as the real alcoholic, you know? And if I didn't identify in this book, the rest of the steps are pointless. The rest of the steps are pointless, you know? So I start making all these plans and designs, and you know, and I convinced me that this is the best thing to do, you know. And all of a sudden I'm running Marx's program. My will is rampant. I'm doing whatever I want because I think it's a good idea, and it works for a time, right? It works for a time, and then it doesn't. And then it doesn't. You know, I got to a point, you know, I was in a relationship. I was in a relationship, and, you know, it ended badly. It ended badly. You know, I completely lost myself. I lost who I was. I lost what I wanted. I lost what I liked. I didn't even know my favorite color anymore. It was, yeah, whatever you want, you know. I was so desperate. I had lost that desperation, and my primary purpose moved from staying sober and helping other alcoholics to achieve sobriety to making sure that this relationship was held intact and that everything here was okay. And if this is okay, then everybody thinks I'm okay, we're okay, life is good, this image is perfect, and nobody's worried about me, you know? Nobody's worried about me. And guess what? That relationship ended and I was lost. I was lost. I had no idea what to do with myself, where to go, how to feel, how to respond. He had moved on and I'm sitting here spinning in a circle. I had lost my mind. And my only solution at that point was the only way I knew how to cope at that time, because I had lost everything, and it was to go back out. What I'm learning right now is learning how to stay sober through adversity, joining that no matter what club. That no matter what club is like, no matter what's going on around me, the idea to use, to drink, to act out is not my solution today, because I have so much proof and fact that every single time I do that, the results do not work out in my favor, ever, ever. I went on a terrible bender. I went on for about 5 months. Everybody got out of my way. Everybody got out of my way. My mom and dad were done. My best friends were done. But what I found out was not that they were done. They were just scared, and they had to prepare themselves for me to die. And at that point, I wanted to. I was tired. I was like, I see people doing less work in Alcoholics Anonymous than me, and they've got all this time. What's up with that? I go to conferences and I help plan conferences and events, and I can't stay sober. Why do they? Why do they get to stay sober and I don't? I'm still in this me, I. Why don't I get? How come my life is, it's just all this poor me itself, right? In the third column of the fourth step, it talks about, how am I affected by my circumstances? How am I affected by my circumstances? And what I find out is that I don't ever get to my part to understand why I can't get some new information inside of me, because I never get to my part. I don't understand why people are responding and reacting to me the way that they are. I don't understand why I'm losing these jobs. I don't understand why I can't get my stuff together, right? Because, that sponsor told me a long time ago, he said, Marcus, he goes, if you get your shit together, all you have is a pile of shit. He's like, it's time to get some new shit. Get rid of that old stuff. Do something different. But I still didn't know what that meant. I was like, okay, well, I won't work in a restaurant anymore. I'm going to get an office job. I'm going to work Monday through Friday. And then guess what? My image builds up again. I've got an adult job and I've got a salary now. And all this stuff, right? Again, image, me, self, all of this stuff just keeps building. And I've got another plan. I've got another idea, and I've got another relationship. So I end up here, right? That everybody got out of my way, and I lost everything. I managed to hang on to my car because my car was in the state. It's the only reason I still had my car, but I lost everything else. I mean, and most importantly, I lost my dignity. When I was out there this last time, I was doing a lot of stuff that just isn't okay. Right? It doesn't check out with the person that I want to be today. It doesn't check out with how I want to carry myself and how I want to feel inside. You can only sell yourself so much until there's nothing left, right? And I was completely broken down and beaten, confused. I was lost, and I just didn't have any more ideas. I didn't have any ideas, and I ended up in some place called Prescott, Arizona. I had to Google it on the map. I didn't know where it was. And when I come here and I purposely did a geographic. I said, I have to get out of where I'm at, or else I'm going to die. And they're like, you're just doing a geographic. I said, fine. I don't care. Just as long as I've got to get some peace of mind. I've got to get some help. My brain was not working. My brain was not able to make effective decisions, so I had to get a complete restart, and I ended up here in Prescott. I remember when I first started like sharing in meetings or something here, I was like, yeah, I ended up in this city. right? And I'm still here, but 2 years later, I'm still fucking Prescott, you know what I mean? And I haven't been happier, I haven't been happier. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why I'm still here. Um, it's crazy. So, what's going on with me right now, is I hear a lot of people talking about, Zoom and, coronavirus is killing AA and all this stuff. I'm at a meeting every fucking day. So if you're not at a meeting, that's on you. So sorry, I didn't mean to. I said the F word with the ing at the end. I'm sorry. Um, I still do the program of Alcoholics Anonymous because the people that are around me are doing it too. They're showing me how this program works, because like I told you, for a long time I was in the program, but I wasn't doing the program. I thought I was, right? I thought I was doing the program. I thought I was doing all the right stuff. But let me tell you, I was doing all the glamorous service positions, right? I was at the face of it all and getting the credit and all of this stuff. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy doing that stuff. I really enjoy doing that stuff. My life just looks a lot different today. It looks a lot different today. And I didn't plan any of it, right? I didn't plan any of it. I was going to stay here for a year and then I was going to go back to Texas. I was going to go do this. I had these plans. I had plans, and I even told my counselor, and she was just looking at me like, wow, you're not learning anything. You're not learning anything, are you? You're not getting it. I'm well sponsored today. And he would have these conversations with me that I didn't like to hear. He always comes from a place of love. And I don't care how hard he's talking to you. He's always coming from a place of love, and he cares. And he's not stupid. He's smarter than I am. Right. And so he can see this coming a mile away. And before I can even get there, he's like, hey. And I'm like, what? He's like, stop. This is what we're doing. He goes, this is what we're doing, and, there's some requirements that I am being sponsored by. And those requirements are super easy. And it's very strange, it's being of service. It's going to meetings. It's answering the phone and using the phone, calling my sponsee brothers and showing up to our family meeting every Monday night. And it's a not negotiable. Like, figure out your schedule, right? Reading the book, sitting quiet with yourself in the morning. That's all. Do your step work. That is all that he's requiring of me. And what I've gotten in return from all of those things is completely different than what I ever thought that I wanted. I didn't know that I wanted what I have today. And what I have today is not much, right? Like, what I have today isn't what I thought I was supposed to have, right? And don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. I don't have a ton of sobriety, right? I'm not confused. I'm sure there's some old timers out there looking at me saying, this guy's full of shit, right? But what I will say is that, like, my life today, I feel amazing. Just today, Oscar's taught me he's showing me how to live one day at a time, right? I know what those words mean, one day at a time. I know what the sentence one day at a time means, but do I know what that means to live that? Right? That's where I'm at today. And I live in gratitude. I meet with my sponsor. I call my sponsor. I'm active. I sponsor people. I show up and I'm of service. I got here and I was working at a restaurant. I was doing the same things that I'd always done. I was putting all these plans together. And my sponsor gave me some suggestions that I took because I told him I would, right? And I started picking up trash at this construction company, right? I've never worked manual labor outside. I've always worked in office jobs. I've worked in really fine dining hotels or restaurants. And all of a sudden I'm in work boots and jeans and a t-shirt, and I hadn't been happier, right? I wasn't having to deal with all of you people. People are mean, but I was just tired, right? I was tired of it. And I started picking up trash at this construction site, and I was outside and I wasn't stressed. And I have this new job today that I did not ask for, and it's been given to me. And I work very hard. I work very hard, and I'm super grateful. And I have this different trajectory that I feel like, the book talks about, aligning my will with God's will. When I live one day at a time, I get that opportunity because I'm paying attention and I'm here and I'm living in the present, and I have no idea how I got to this feeling. No idea. Everything is literally unfolded for me one step at a time, one suggestion at a time, one day at a time, one meeting at a time, one freak out breakdown at a time, and I couldn't be more grateful. I live in a state of gratitude. Even when my day is stressed, it's so easy to be grateful today. Well, I'm sorry, maybe for me it is. It's easy for me to be grateful today because I look around me and I see a lot of people that aren't happy. I see a lot of people who aren't on these screens anymore. I see a lot of people who are in the in-person meetings that I go to. I don't know where they are, right? All I know is that for me, I'm sicker than most. I have to be here. I have to show up. I have to answer my phone when it rings, even if I don't want to. Because I remember one time I didn't answer the phone when I was sponsoring somebody a long time ago because I was watching a television show and that night they relapsed. I'm not saying I'm that powerful, but if I would have picked up that phone that night, maybe I could have took them to dinner and maybe they'd be on a different path. But I do know that it takes everything that it takes, and I'm not that powerful and I didn't get that person drunk. I get that, but it's just one of those examples of like, I have these examples that are in my life today that are showing me how to work this program. My sponsor doesn't ask me to do anything that he doesn't do, and the people around us are doing it. And I somebody told me a long time ago. They said, alcohol brought me to my knees. My knees brought me to AA. AA brought me to the steps, and the steps brought me to God. And I feel like that's where I'm at today. I feel like that's where I'm at today. All I know is that that's what today looked like. I know that tomorrow I have some plans tomorrow with some great friends that are sober. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to do my prayers. I'm going to call my sponsor at the time when they call them at. I'm going to probably pick up the phone when my sponsees call. And then I have a meeting tomorrow night that I go to if I don't go to Verde Valley Roundup. That's what I'm going to do tomorrow. Hope, what I did today. I'm really grateful to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to share my story and to see so many faces of people that I love. And yeah, I think that's all I got. Thanks.